There's something incredibly special about those who grew up in the 1970s, and it's not just nostalgia. Psychology can explain it. If you were a child of the 70s, your brain developed in a unique evolutionary window, a time when life was both wildly free and surprisingly responsible. Think about it. When you look back, there's this sense that the 70s offered a kind of magic that no generation has been able to replicate. The freedom, the independence, and the experiences, they weren't just fun. They shaped you in ways that are hard to put into words. And when today's younger generation looks at what you experienced, they have no idea. They laugh at the stories, and while it might seem like they're making fun of you, deep down they know they missed out on something that can't be recreated. Something so powerful that even decades later, you find yourself saying, "I wish I could go back and live it again." But what made the 70s so unique? More importantly, what did it do to your brain? The first trait that stands out in people who grew up in that era is what psychologists call self-directed problem solving. And it all started with one thing. The phrase that every 70s kid remembers: "Go find something to do, or I'll find something for you." This was the rule. If you complained of boredom, you didn't get entertainment handed to you. You had to figure it out yourself. This led to a level of independence and creativity that modern kids often lack. Research on unstructured childhoods shows that kids who weren't constantly entertained developed stronger executive functions, creativity, and problem-solving skills. You had to invent your day from scratch, which is why so many 70s kids turned to books, bikes, or exploring the world on their own. Your brain learned how to generate purpose from nothing, a skill that's hard to come by today. But there's more to it than just creativity. The 70s taught something that still affects you today: adaptive risk calibration. If you were a child in the 70s, you spent your days doing things that would make any modern parent freak out: climbing trees that were way too high, riding bikes without helmets, playing with fireworks. You were building your own little world, and it came with consequences. Research in developmental psychology shows that children who experience physical risk as part of their play learn better threat assessment and develop lower levels of anxiety as adults. You learn the difference between real danger and manageable risk by experiencing it, not just watching it on a screen. You didn't just survive those scrapes, bruises, and close calls. You thrived. And today, when chaos erupts, you remain calm. Everyone else might panic, but you've been through worse and made it out stronger. This sense of calm in the face of disaster? It's a direct result of your childhood experiences. But what about the solitude you found so comforting? Comfortable solitude capacity is a trait most 70s kids have, and it's something modern kids will never fully understand. You spent hours alone, listening to music, reading, or simply thinking. You didn't need constant digital stimulation to fill your time. Today, in a world that never stops demanding attention, the ability to be content with your own thoughts is rare. Studies have shown that people who grew up before the constant presence of digital devices show significantly less anxiety when alone. You weren't afraid of silence. You knew how to enjoy it. You didn't feel the need to be entertained 24/7, which allowed your mind to develop a depth that's almost impossible to achieve in today's hyperconnected world. This ability to be alone without feeling lonely is something modern kids are losing, and it's one of the most powerful traits you carry. Then there's analog patience, a skill that you probably don't even realize you mastered as a kid. Back then, waiting for something was just part of life. You waited a week for your favorite show to come on, and when you wanted to take a picture, you had to wait days to see if it turned out. You didn't have instant messaging or social media, and if you wanted to talk to someone, you had to call and hope they were home. Research on delayed gratification shows that people who had to wait for things, whether it was a TV show, a photo, or a phone call, develop better impulse control, stronger relationships, and more success in their careers. You grew up in a world where patience was required, and it shaped how you handle today's instant gratification culture. You don't get distracted by what's immediately available because you know the value of waiting for something truly worth it. Lastly, you grew up with something that most kids today will never understand: unsupervised autonomy wiring. As a child, you had freedom like no one else. At 8 years old, you were riding your bike miles away from home, exploring the woods, and playing in creeks with no adult supervision. No one tracked your movements, and you didn't have to check in every 5 minutes. You learned how to navigate the world on your own, make decisions without someone telling you what to do, and take responsibility for your actions. This level of independence shaped your decision-making skills and made you capable of handling complex situations without outside guidance. You weren't constantly babysat. Your parents trusted you to figure things out on your own. Today, that kind of freedom seems almost impossible, and most kids grow up in an environment where they're constantly monitored and controlled. But that freedom built something in you that's incredibly valuable, a deep sense of autonomy and competence. So, if you ever find yourself feeling out of place in today's world, remember this: you're not outdated. You carry traits that are quickly becoming rare. Your independence isn't coldness, it's competence. The ability to be alone without feeling lonely isn't antisocial behavior, it's depth. And the patience that others see as apathy, it's discipline. You survived a childhood that would get parents arrested today, and it didn't damage you. It built you into someone who can thrive without the constant noise of modern life. When you look at today's world, with its constant distractions and instant gratification, you're carrying forward capabilities that are fading away. So, to all the 70s kids out there, don't forget to appreciate what you lived through. You were part of a generation that had the best of both worlds, a childhood that was free yet formative, wild yet meaningful. It wasn't just a time to grow up, it was a time to become who you are. Drop a comment if you're a 70s kid and feel the same way. And if you enjoy content that validates your unique experiences, make sure to hit the subscribe button on GRINDX. There's more to come, and we're just getting started. But here's where things get even more fascinating. Those of us who grew up in the 70s didn't just experience the physical world differently. Our brains were shaped by the lack of constant external interference. Think about it. We had to learn how to entertain ourselves, without any device or screen to distract us. Every minute of every day was an opportunity for self-direction. This led to a trait psychologists call self-regulation and delayed gratification, and it's something we carry today. While younger generations have never known a time without smartphones, we were the ones who had to wait for the things we wanted, whether it was a weekend trip or just a simple phone call from a friend. If we wanted to hang out with someone, we had to plan ahead. There were no instant messages, no social media notifications. If we missed a call, we had to wait until the person called back. If we were late to catch the bus, we missed it. No rewinds. No second chances. This delayed gratification built an extraordinary level of emotional regulation in us. We learned the value of patience, and as a result, we were much better at handling frustration and stress compared to people who grew up in the instant gratification era. You can go without things for long periods of time without feeling anxious. You can wait without constantly checking your phone, and that's a skill that most of today's younger generation struggles to learn. The need for instant responses, likes, and validation can't be overstated. But not for you. Your childhood taught you how to be comfortable with waiting. You're not impatient. You're just quietly confident that things will come in their own time. What's more interesting is the mental resilience that came from those simpler, freer times. Back in the 70s, the world was much more unpredictable. You couldn't simply call someone up if you had a problem or needed help. You had to figure it out on your own. This led to an incredible sense of self-reliance that, in many ways, feels almost lost today. You learned how to deal with failure. You fell off your bike, you got back up. You had arguments with friends, but you learned how to patch things up without being constantly monitored or advised. There was no instant feedback, no right or wrong opinions being shoved down your throat by social media. And that's why you're so comfortable making decisions now, in adulthood. You're able to think critically, solve problems independently, and keep your emotions in check even when things get tough. Think about the technology you had back then. It was simple, right? It was slow, but it worked. No texting, no social media, no 24/7 connectivity. People actually talked to each other. You made plans, you showed up, and you lived in the moment. And while today's tech-driven, hyper-connected world seems to promise convenience, it often makes us more dependent and distracted. In contrast, you learned how to disconnect to reconnect. This trait of being comfortable with solitude, with silence, and with the space between moments is what sets you apart today. When you get quiet, you think. When you step away from distractions, you have time to reflect. When others are caught in the rush of daily life, you're taking a breath and thinking deeply about what matters. This is why, even in social situations, you don't need to be the center of attention. You're comfortable in your own skin. You've learned how to be with yourself. And as a result, you tend to gravitate toward authenticity, not performance. You're not trying to impress anyone. You've seen enough of the world to know that people will show their true selves eventually. And it's the real, unfiltered connections that matter. This makes you emotionally intelligent in ways that today's fast-paced social interactions can't replicate. You know when someone's being genuine, and you can spot manipulation or fake behavior from a mile away. And that ability to read people, without ever having to say much, has been honed over years of being raised in a world that didn't force you to act or perform. As you look around today, you might notice that people are much more dependent on each other for emotional validation, for connection, and for entertainment. But you don't need that. Your early years taught you that you can stand on your own 2 feet. You've survived the toughest of times, and you did it without the safety nets others rely on. Today's world might seem overwhelming, and you might sometimes feel like you don't quite fit in. But here's the thing. You're not missing out. You've simply lived through something that most people will never understand. The independence, the ability to sit with yourself, the creativity that comes from boredom, and the emotional resilience that allows you to walk through life without needing constant approval. These are the traits that define you, and they will continue to shape the way you move through the world, no matter what comes next. So, the next time someone tells you that you're too independent or too quiet, remember, they don't know what it was like to grow up in the 70s. They don't understand the values, the skills, and the emotional intelligence that you gained by living in a world where you were free to explore, learn, and grow at your own pace. You have something they don't: the depth, the wisdom, and the inner strength to navigate today's world in ways they might never be able to. Your past wasn't just an era, it was an education in life. And that education, even though it was never formal, will serve you for the rest of your life. If this video resonates with you and you can relate to what we've talked about, leave a comment below. Tell us what part of your childhood made you who you are today. And if you want more content like this, content that validates your unique experiences, make sure to subscribe to GRINDX. We've just scratched the surface, and there's so much more to explore. Thanks for watching, and remember, your generation didn't just survive, it thrived.